Hello. Welcome to room 36. My guest today is Daniel Hayes.
My guest today is David Abramovich. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Hey man, nice to hang out here on the room 36. Let's do a cheers.
Salud.
Salud. So, where do we begin in all of this? Who are you, David?
Who am I? It's very, very broad. Just a guy trying to get on in the world. I'm a Russian-born American.
Mhm.
I guess that's the closest thing that describes me. And I've been living in Kyiv for a little over a year now.
Okay. Really? Only?
Yeah.
I thought you were here way longer.
Nope.
You feel like a local.
I'm trying.
You're always telling me about the local spots,
Trying.
the vintage stores. By the way, I haven't checked out that one yet.
I can't make you go. I can only recommend.
Uh-huh. You have a big record collection at home.
A big record collection spread among 3 different cities in 3 different countries.
Okay, talk to me about the collection. What does it mean to you?
So about 15, 16 years ago, I started DJing back when like vinyl was like the only way to do it. So started building up a bunch of records. Obviously, you needed to have a big collection. Then I kind of got out of it, stopped doing it for a while, and then I sort of decided, like on a whim, probably like 10 years ago, to be like, I kind of miss collecting music.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have a massive CD collection. I used to have like 850 CDs,
Mm-hmm.
like a huge wall of CDs.
Is part of it like sentimental or nostalgic?
No, it's like I mean, I really loved music, and at the time, CDs was really the only way to like enjoy music at the time. So I was like just amassing massive amounts. It was part of it was like the actual collecting bit.
Did you ever burn any CDs?
Oh, lots. But I liked like the whole like art, the cover, like the physicality. So basically, 10 years ago, I got back into record collecting, and but not with my lifestyle, they're sort of spread around the world, and I'm trying to all bring them here little by little.
So you are DJ Refusenik,
Yes,
and you have a radio show.
I have a radio show.
Tell me about your radio show. What is it?
My radio show is honestly just like kind of my taste of like on the more experimental side of things. So our tagline is experimental music from around the world. So yeah, it's honestly I listen to a lot of music in the month. I put aside stuff that I think will fit, and then I record it, and then it gets aired in Reno, Nevada every month on 97.7 FM KWNK.
How'd you get that gig or setup?
Friends, basically. I have a lot of friends from Reno. I lived in San Francisco for a few years. A lot of my friends were from there. One of them moved back. I don't think he ever actually lived in SF, but it's just somebody I know who's helped start the radio station.
Okay.
The radio station's only like 4 or 5 years old, so.
Let me get the timeline straight with your life. So you lived in SF.
Complicated.
SF for a few years.
Very
That
complicated.
was before or after Mexico?
I'll do the very, very fast, like 10-second version of my like life.
You can do it in 20.
20. all free. Born in Moscow, grew up in Boston. Basically raised there, lived there for 20 years. Moved to Argentina, then moved to San Francisco for 2 years, Barcelona for a year, San Francisco again for 2 years, New York for 3 years, then left the States for good, lived in Mexico City for 3 years, and now I'm here.
Okay. What's your favorite city of all of these to visit or go back to?
I will always be like really in love with Buenos Aires. Like,
Buenos
yeah,
Aires.
that's where I learned Spanish. That's where I got into Latin American culture. That was my it was really, really important to me, and it literally changed my life living there. So I will.
Did you start listening to cumbia music there?
I started DJing cumbia music there.
Oh,
I was like
boy.
DJing pretty heavily in Buenos Aires, actually, which was really fun. I was part of a pretty well-known party that's now a record label that's pretty well-known called CSEC. So it was like every Wednesday night they had a bunch of like these like digital cumbia type guys who did like newer Argentine stuff, and I somehow fell into that scene. And yeah, I was playing like pretty big parties there. It was the best DJing of my life, I think.
For our listeners who might not know, how would you describe cumbia music? And what's the origin? Is it from Argentina?
No, it's just very popular there. It's from Colombia. The myth is that like some shipwreck washed. There's a myth around it, which is pretty interesting actually. Some shipwreck, like some European boat shipwreck, washed some accordions onto the beach in Colombia, and that's how like cumbia was born because it's a mix of like African rhythms and then some accordion vibes and. It's slow, generally pretty slow, but intense. So that's why I describe it. That's why I like it. It's like it's got a very specific beat.
What's that beat? Always, yeah.
Always the same.
All variations of
and speeds up and down. Like it can be really much faster. It can be way slower. There's a whole genre called cumbia rebajada, which is like slowed down cumbia. So they just basically play the records at like slower speed. So it's like all the voices are lower.
And do they take like pop music and turn it into a cumbia mix?
People do, yeah. Obviously, like I think every genre does that to some degree.
That's true.
But cumbia is kind of its own universe. It's really big in Argentina. It's really big in Mexico also. Argentina has its own brand of cumbia called cumbia villera, which is like cumbia from like the Villa, which is like kind of the favela of Buenos Aires, which is like a very hilarious and like kind of like gangster rap was in like the 90s here. It was like that. There it was like very hilarious, awesome, very synthesized version of cumbia, which I also really like.
So was it the social life in Buenos Aires that you really liked? Or
it was kind of everything. I came there without not knowing a word of Spanish. I happened to fall in with like really awesome people. I learned while I was there. I was doing music stuff, which was amazing.
Did you feel safe, David?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there was 2 attempted pickpocketing, robbery things, but neither one of them succeeded. So, relatively.
How did that go down? What, they tried to reach in your pocket?
Oh yeah, actually, this is funny. I was set to DJ the biggest gig I've ever still have ever played in my life. It was like Saturday night. At 5 a.m. 5 a.m. is like peak time in Buenos Aires. Everyone goes out insanely late. I DJed to almost like close to 1,000 people. It was like 800, 900 people. So I had my laptop, like a whole thing in my bag, and I had like my iPod at the time. This was a while ago. And I was waiting at the bus stop that right next to my apartment. Like we're always like just wait for the bus, and there's these kids like huffing something out of a bag. I was like, this isn't good. They're like really young kids. Like literally, you could like smell it. It was like just like out of a paper bag. Yeah. And then one of them is like comes over, he's like, no tenés moneda, like you have like some money. I'm like, no. This kid goes into my like hoodie pocket, grabs my iPod and starts booking it.
It's just
straight up. I have like this heavy thing on my back. I'm start flying after him, yelling, like screaming at him and cursing him in English, right? So like, yeah, I'll kill you. When I kill you, I'm gonna get you. Like just instinct. And he took like 10 steps and like threw it on the ground and like ran off.
Really?
Yeah, he was like terrified. I don't think he was expecting to hear a different language. So that's what I mean. Attempted. Yeah, it was an attempted like burglary. But overall, though, it was relatively safe. I mean, just as to the Latin American cities. Yeah, honestly, that's a very important thing for me. At the time, that had all my music on it.
With the iPod Mini, iPod
No,
Shuffle.
that was like I had like the 128 gigs, like the big guys.
Yeah, those guys. Was it white? The white?
Oh yeah.
Those were the days. I love that iPod wheel too.
I honestly kind of miss them in a sense. The phone doesn't give you the same kind of tactical pleasure.
Sure. It's the thing with CDs too. I used to listen to CD like over and over. Again, now I have song ADD. I can't make it through a song. I can't make it through an album.
I'm still old school, man. I listen to albums pretty much. This is why like vinyl's good for me because like I listen to even on digital. I listen to albums pretty much all the way through all the time. That's like how I like to listen to music, and I very rarely listen to like playlists or just single songs unless I'm like looking for something specific, like or just looking to get introduced to something, maybe sometimes. I don't listen to much like that. I listen to really full albums like all the time. Which I know makes me a very weird anomaly, like a grandpa in the musical community of today. But
this is a great opportunity to ask about Refusenik.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the name?
I don't think you ever told me.
Oh, great opportunity in that case. Might as well tell you and tell the public. So Refusenik is a combination of an English word and a Russian word. The Russian term is atказник. So basically when Russian Jews would basically try to, in the Soviet times, would try to leave the country, right? Like they wanted to like get out because there's a lot of persecution, A lot of discrimination, like universities had caps on, like, some universities wouldn't admit Jews at all. Like, your passport said Jewish, not Russian. A lot of these things a lot of people don't know. But then the government wouldn't let them leave. Wouldn't let them leave. Sort of like Cuba in a sense right now. In the sense that, the Soviet Union is the greatest place in the world. We don't want to have people like leaving. It doesn't look good, right? Like, that's really why.
They're trapped.
It really was. So it would go through times where they would let more people out, then they would let less people out. Like, it would kind of go in waves. And in the 80s, when we were trying to leave, it was not a lot of people were allowed to go. And so my parents applied to leave.
They would basically issue like a visa to leave the country.
Yes, exactly. So imagine living in a country where you can't leave it. Like, that's kind of crazy, but like, I lived this. It was very little, and my parents applied for the first time when my mom was pregnant with me, and then it took us 5 years. 5 years of like constant application, getting rejected, applied, getting rejected, all this other stuff. There's a ton of drama. So those people were called Отказники, and in the States are called Refuseniks, because a lot of the reasons that the people were actually starting to be let out was because of pressure from American Jewish groups would pressure the American government, which would in turn pressure the Soviet government. Okay. So for the Americans, they were called Refuseniks. So I was Refusenik my entire life in the Soviet Union. So I thought it was a good name to take on, and I've had it pretty much since I started DJing, which was a long time ago.
Very cool. I had no idea. You're born in Moscow, you said, yeah?
Correct.
How long did you live there?
Just 5 years. The 5 years we were stuck there. Weirdly, on the plus side, I speak Russian probably much better now than if we had left when I was like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So there was at the end, positive result of this.
Okay, back to Buenos Aires and music. Did they listen to reggaeton much there?
I mean, they didn't. I was there in 2007, so reggaeton wasn't as big as it is now. Not really. Not at the time. Now, they do. I was there for a couple of weeks a couple of years ago, and yeah, it's much more prevalent now. Okay. But they were much more like kind of closed to the world a little bit. Like, just they're far away. Yeah, they're like really far from stuff. Trends end up there like slowly, very slowly. Obviously, things have sped up with like internet and all this other stuff in the past. Like,
is the air good in Buenos Aires?
The air is not great, but not awful. It's flat, so the pollution doesn't get trapped in there like it does with a lot of other cities.
Okay. For the newbie, how would you describe reggaeton? I liked how you described cumbia.
Oh man, I'm not less familiar with reggaeton, but it is the prevalent genre of Spanish-speaking music in the world by far. I think everybody in the Spanish-speaking country listens to it at least a little bit. Some people really hate it though. Some people are like kind of like a little like, ugh, reggaeton.
I feel like it's very international.
It's very international. In the States, it's very popular among non-Spanish speakers too. It's really infiltrated kind of general public. I mean, everyone's like heard Despacito and stuff, and like so like everyone knows these songs. So, but it's funny here, people don't really listen to it. Like, it's very rare.
Would that be a reggaeton, Despacito?
Yeah,
I guess so.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Like J Balvin,
As a kid growing up where'd you go to after Moscow? To Boston. Okay. In Boston, what were you listening to back then?
As a kid, I was a very angsty.
Linkin Park.
No. This was pre-Linkin Park era. B, it was like I got into music really early because we had MTV. And I grew up on like Faith No More, Anthrax, Metallica, Megadeth, like Quicksand. Like I was very listening to purely like hard rock and metal from age like 11 to like age 16, 17 when I like taste started kind of expanding out. So but I was like literally just like that's it. Like it was just like heavy rock stuff because I was like pretty miserable as a teen, and it was a good outlet for me to get like the feelings out.
Were you rebellious?
Not really. So I grew up. I just mentioned this to you. I grew up in like an Orthodox Jewish environment. So I went to an Orthodox Jewish yeshiva for 12 years, which was a pretty unique and kind of terrible experience. So I was kind of rebellious against that. Like on like Shabbos, I would like sneak out of the house and go to like Ozfest, which I definitely did do a couple of times with my friend. So I'd be like, I'm going to my friend's house, and then we'd like drive to Ozfest. but so that was like technically not allowed. But like that's like very mild, right? I wasn't like, like I smoked weed in like senior year of high school. I started smoking weed, but like kind of standard stuff. It wasn't really anything. I wasn't like really that bad.
Did you go to an Orthodox school?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it strict?
The school, yeah.
In what sense? I also, by the way, I have a religious background.
Yeah, so
I went to a pretty strict school, you could say.
yeah, I mean, it was like it was like 10 hours a day, first of all. So like we had like all the regular subjects like math, whatever, history, and then we had like
Is this a thing in Orthodox Jewish schools?
Yeah.
They do like way more.
it's just because you have your regular education, then you have your like Jewish education. So you have like all your like you study the Torah, like you study Hebrew. So our days were way long. So we didn't really have time to, like I was done at like 5 or 6 p.m. in high school, like done with classwork. So we didn't have a lot of time for like extracurricular stuff, or like didn't want to at that point. You were just like it was like a work day. So yeah, it was like when you're there, like you have to follow all the rules, right? Like, and they kind of expect you to follow the rules when you're not there too, which I definitely did not do as good of a job at.
You learned the Torah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
In what sense? What do you mean, like you...
You like studied it, like you like go over passages, you like discuss them, like I mean, this is a long time ago, but
In Hebrew?
In Hebrew, and also like in ancient Hebrew, right? Like the Torah is not written in like the Hebrew people speak today. It's sort of like Shakespearean English, like it's the words are different. So a lot of it's like you can kind of figure it out. Like the letters are the same, but like the writing is very very different. So it's a whole different world.
And you discontinued your... I don't know what to call it.
My
Left.
religiousness. Yeah, like as soon as I left high school, I went to college. I was like, never again with this. I really really didn't like it.
Okay, is there a Jewish community here?
In Kyiv?
In Kyiv.
I mean,
synagogue.
definitely there is.
Seen
I mean, there's
one synagogue.
There's an enormous synagogue right in the middle of the city, which is kind of
Really?
crazy. Yeah, like right by
Palaz Sport.
yeah, Palaz Sportu. Yeah, totally. It's a huge one. It definitely exists here. I've lived in a lot of places. I've never been too drawn to like get in touch with the Jewish community in various places for various reasons. One, I don't feel that connected to it. And in Latin America, the Jewish communities are all very, very specific. They're very, very wealthy, generally. Very closed off. They live in like one neighbor. This was in Mexico City and Buenos Aires the same. They live in like one area, very closed off, very wealthy, very kind of religious and conservative. Like people I would not have like really anything in common with. So I was like, I don't need to be a part of this.
What kind of people do you like to hang out with?
People that aren't like that. I don't know. Weirdos, freaks.
Weirdos and freaks.
Weirdos and freaks, man. Musicians, creative people. Generally, like the people I wouldn't call myself particularly creative. I'm like trying, but it doesn't come very naturally to me. But I do like to surround myself with creative people, and I just kind of end up. It happens that way. I don't even try to. Just kind of like these are the people I end up being friends with.
Okay. Was it always that way?
I mean, in my adult life, a lot, yeah. Just kind of, I would say in the past like decade or so, yeah.
So we play in a band together.
We do.
You are no, I call you Mohawk.
Sure. I don't have a mohawk.
Or Skanka boy.
Not a ska person either, but that's okay. I'll allow it.
A what person?
Ska person.
Is that what a skanka? I don't know what a skanka. I just
You
hear it.
just made it up.
No, I hear it like in a lot of Jamaican music.
Yeah. It's kind of like ska.
dubstep.
It's like ska reggae like term. That's fine. I do like reggae though. I love dancehall.
Not a ska person.
Not a ska person. My friends in high school were so big into it. Back when it was like late 90s, it was like ska revival time. And I like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones because they're from Boston and they were a little bit more punk. And they were awesome live, but every other band I was like, not my thing.
Do you think you're gonna live here for a while in Kyiv?
Yeah, I love it here. I really, after a long time of living a very, very nomadic life, it's like feels good to feel like I'm at home in a place.
Is Kyiv the one?
I know myself too well to say that's the.
I think we should move to Shanghai, man.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. Sure. It might be tough with the language, but at the very least, I've limited myself. I think I've limited myself to living in a place where I can speak the local language. I think that's like super important to me to have like a relationship with the local people. And yeah, so I don't know if Shanghai is in the cards. You know what I'm saying.
Okay. Have you spent much time in Asia?
I've traveled, yeah, and living actually. I lived 2 months in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. That's an interesting thing, right?
How do you pronounce it? Phnom Penh. I always wondered. It has a PH.
Yeah, it's Phnom Penh. I think it's Phnom Penh. I don't remember. It was like 4 years ago, but and I've traveled around a decent amount in Asia, but it's been a while.
Is that by Phi Phi Island or what's that?
Koh Phi Phi?
Where's Phi Phi Island?
Koh Phi Phi is in Thailand.
Okay, I've always wanted to visit this Phi Phi Island.
It's very beautiful.
You've been?
No, actually, I've not been to that one. It's very touristy. That one is excessively touristy is what I hear. So I was like, there's lots of beautiful places to go that I don't.
You're not into the mainstream stuff.
It's just like I don't like massive crowds and over tourism.
Sure. What is it that you really like about Kyiv?
I get asked this a lot, and it's kind of hard to put my finger on. It's just like a bunch of small things, right? Like kind of that all come together, like things that are important for me in a city. This place has a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. What would some of those things include?
I don't know. Lots to do, great culture, good food, good coffee scene, really awesome people. That's kind of one of the best things about it. Ukrainians really surprised me because I always, in my head, it was always like, okay, like you hear Russian and you see somebody who looks Russian and you're like, oh, they're probably like Russians, which are like, I'm Russian, but I'm like, Russians tend to be very cold. You have to like really, really break through that to like become like close with people. And here, people are not like that really at all. People are much more close, like even weirdly in like Latin America, where it's like you're pretty easy to start a conversation with anyone. Mm-hmm. It was really refreshing to me. So like the people here are really important. That's like one of the best things about living here. It's a lot of nature in the city. There's a river. There's a crazy island with like it's very like wild. It's affordable.
There's a nude beach on some island.
There's a nude beach on some island, which I've not been to. It's right next to Europe. Like, I mean, with all this COVID stuff, hopefully soon that will be much more accessible. But like, super well located to go other interesting places. And then most importantly, I just like feel very at home here.
Great. What do you think is a generational gap or generational like culture difference between like these open, warm Ukrainians and the older generation? Do you experience that?
Honestly, even the older generation, I've had kind of a good experience with. Like those are the people you'd expect to be a little bit more like Soviet, like demeanor kind of. And yeah, I've had like instances where like the lady in like the metro like yells at you like right away. Like, yeah, that happens, but it's honestly like it's an exception rather than the rule. Granted, the last time I was in Moscow was 16 years ago. It was a really long time ago, but there I really was like, whoa, this just feels like exactly what I imagined the Soviet Union would be like. Like literally not like nothing has changed. Everyone was so, like, you're always like, can I have this? And you're like, oh, like, don't yell at me. Like all the time. I remember this. I mean, people say it's different now. So I do want to go back just to like, I was born there. So like, but I was not interested in that. And it's really not like that here. Like I had great conversations with like, I had a great conversation with this like, I don't know, 75-year-old Uber driver on the way here who was like, these maps now because were amazing. Like the phone, like the Google Translate. He was all like psyched. I was like, this is great. So I've not really, even in the older generation, even that openness is kind of still there to an extent.
Mm-hmm. I think they're very active, like the older generation here.
I mean, yeah, it seems to be. It
seems like they're out and about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, compared to like the U.S., definitely they're a little more active.
Speaking of the U.S., you just went there and you are vaccinated now.
I am vaccinated.
Congratulations, man. I know I'm not going to get sick from you.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
What'd you do there in the States?
Man, it was my first time back in a year and a half. So it was a really long time since seeing my friends. So basically seeing friends like all up and down the East Coast. Eating literally everything in sight. Was very, very much a priority. There's a lot of food you can't get here. And then hauling 2 very heavy suitcases of records back to Kyiv from there. Those are my main things.
Record man.
Yeah.
What places in Kyiv would you recommend to eat at?
That's very broad.
Who are you gonna shout out?
Who am I gonna shout out?
What type of food? What? Let's say I like spice. I think we both like spice.
Okay, spice is kind of hard to come by here, unfortunately. I think Han is a really good, like a good Vietnamese spot.
Is that the one
Han Cafe, yeah. Han Cafe is very good for fairly authentic, not so spicy, but like it's pretty good Vietnamese. I think the whole food spot place, because that's kind of anything you want, which is very strange if you coming from a place like the US where like it's a pizza place and a Vietnamese place and a Mexican place, and they're all actually good. It's like, it's really 3 different restaurants, but I think they just share a kitchen, and they share like a space. And I'm fairly certain it's one guy who kind of started all 3, and all 3 are really excellent.
Who is this guy?
I'm scared. I keep trying to get in touch with, like, to meet up with him. I forget his name, but
Ask him to come on the show.
yeah, like that's actually a good idea. He's probably a pretty interesting character, but that's the only good Mexican. Like, I'm very snobby with Mexican food, obviously. It's the only good Mexican in Kyiv, that's for sure. But it's actually not bad.
How do they end up doing it? Is it the tortillas?
Here's what I've seen with people who try to do like a very specific food that doesn't exist in a place yet. They have to really care. Like, for it to be good, they have to really try hard and like really want to make it good. And you can tell that this guy has been in Mexico, traveled to Mexico, knows what's up. He's not trying to like pass off like fajitos, burritos, and like
He's
all this other
Ukrainian,
stuff.
yeah.
He's Ukrainian, yeah. I mean, they just started doing mole, enchiladas. They have like tostadas. They have like really good chips, like really good totopos and everything. So, yeah, it's caring, and like, because it's hard. Like, you have to source a bunch of ingredients. You have to learn a bunch of things. Like, there's not like infrastructure for it, right? So, I know this foreign girl who's living in Mexico who opened up a bagel place there, and that's like obviously doesn't exist there really. And she really cares and really tries to like always make it better, and they're good. They're some of the best bagels I've had outside of the U.S. I really want somebody to open one here, please.
A bagel place, interesting.
I would kill for one. Probably.
What does that need to feature?
It's hard. You need an oven that's specific, like a specific type of oven. Bagels are very hard to do.
I always think about Philadelphia cream cheese when I think of bagels.
That they do have here.
They do have cream cheese here? Oh, I
Philly cream cheese, yeah.
Tried.
Yeah, that's universal pretty much. But a good bagel is it's hard to find outside of the U.S.
Okay. What places do you usually DJ at? English
Here?
is a tough language.
Yeah, tough. Is it your first language or your second language?
Español.
Huh?
No, Español is not my first language.
Yeah, English is my second language. So
I grew up speaking like a different genre of English.
Oh yeah, like patois, kind of.
Like patois.
Yeah.
But I spoke American English with my dad, and only my dad as a kid. Oh, maybe my mom, but she speaks kind of broken English. She's from Paraguay.
So like a mix of Spanish and English, kind of growing up.
Not much Spanish. For whatever reason, we didn't speak Spanish.
So what do you speak with your mom?
Now I speak with her in Spanish, but I had to learn it when I was like 19, 20 years old. I had to go to Paraguay, spend 2 months there. There's no way without it.
No, there's no way. Your Spanish is quite good, though.
It's getting there. I speak pretty much only with my mom. And occasionally with you.
I mean, I speak Russian. Before I came here, I only exclusively spoke Russian with my parents, too. So, never really with anybody else.
Interesting.
You can still keep it.
Yeah, that is strange, because sometimes I start speaking to somebody in Spanish, and I feel like, oh, it's like my mom.
It took me a while here. Like, I had to learn all the cursing, like all the bad words here.
Like you didn't curse with your parents.
Didn't curse with my parents. There's a lot of. I'm still working on like, cursing here is like an art.
See, my mom would probably only curse in Spanish, not in English.
Yeah, we were like very mild cursing at home. Very, very like PG rated cursing, not the aggressive cursing that you get here. But I'm working on it. I'm getting better.
You're getting better at the cursing.
Yeah, I'm actively like trying to.
There's so much variety.
It's a lot.
Yeah, pro, za, вы, and then
there's a lot. Oh yeah, you asked me about where I DJ at.
Yeah,
so
where did you DJ?
I just started DJing again here, which has been really fun. So I've DJed at Bezdvide, this espresso.
Yeah, I don't know what that
really
is.
good.
What is Bezdvide and where is it?
It's I don't know how to pronounce the name of the street. It's Velika Zhytomyrskaya, but like further down. Strichiv.
Yeah, I know that one.
I can't pronounce this. Strichiv Strichiv. I have some trouble with the street names here. Yeah, it's like an espresso bar, but at night, on weekends, they always have like, not always, but they often have like DJs and like, they have like drinks. It's like kind of a bar at the night. It's a pretty cool spot. My friend Alina works there. And I've DJed at TCP, the Cinematographer's Party, which is an
Yeah.
excellent bar, which I really like. And I'm actually DJing there again on Saturday with records, with vinyl. This will be kind of a big deal for me. I haven't played with a vinyl in probably 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah, this will be the first time in 15. I haven't had enough records in one place to really do it for a while.
See, I don't have no idea how that works. What's like the big difference?
Well, you're very limited when you have tracks in your computer. You can have literally like 10,000 of them to choose from. Or if you're connected to the internet, then like literally millions. Well, the records, you got to schlep every single thing you're playing.
And so what,
with
do you
you.
switch between like two of them? You have one
Yeah,
playing and
one
then
playing, then you switch to the other one and go back and forth. I mean, so that's how DJing started, right? I don't know how much like smooth beat matching I'm gonna do because I'm pretty out of practice. But yeah, you're just limited. You need to think ahead of the night, to have everything to put it together. Bring 50, 60 maximum because they're really heavy, and then that's your night, man. Then you gotta like really swing it with that. So if people want something else or want some other vibe, you're kind of like, oh.
What vibe are you going for?
I only have a couple hundred here total, so
Only a
I'm
couple
like,
hundred.
honestly, that's that's limiting for a DJ. That's like not that much. And not all of it's like music you want to play out, right? Like some of it's just like sad guy guitar stuff, which I'm not going to play in like a bar. But it'll be outside, and like so, I'm trying to go for like a summery kind of like sunset. It'll be like around
maybe I
sunset
can wear
time.
this shirt.
I think you can definitely wear the shirt. So yeah, something like summery going into nighttime, some like down tempo stuff, maybe a little jazz, maybe a little like shoegazy, kind of like dreamy guitar music, which I have a lot of. So
Okay. What does your day look like, man? What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up?
right now, well, it's my last week of work, so I have more of a schedule now. I don't know what my day's gonna look like in a week or so. So I usually get up fairly early and try to do something physical most days. So like whether it's like going on a run or I play tennis or skating, which I got into randomly.
You do like
recently.
tennis training, or you have a coach?
I'm okay. I only picked it up like 4 or 5 years ago for the first time. I really like it. I played squash for years, which is a very random sport. So it's another racket one and kind of transferable skill a little bit. So yeah, something pretty physical in the morning. I like to get my day started like that. I'm becoming more of a morning person as I get older.
Are you a breakfast person?
Yeah, then I like have to eat something. I'm always starving. And then coffee. Probably go to a cafe and like do work, like start working. Do stuff on the computer, drink coffee, grab some lunch, do more work. Then have meetings and calls usually from 4 to 6 or 7.
Did you start your remote working because of quarantine or before that?
No, before that, I've been working for this company for 3 years. That's fully remote, which was awesome. Obviously, for this whole COVID thing, it really didn't change my work style very much. So, yeah, it's just all remote all the time. So I'm very, very used to it.
Do you have to do a lot of calls?
Just here in the evenings. So like all my calls are between 4 and 7, 4 and 8. So they're just like this 4-hour window of. So I try to make it home by then. So just sit in front of the computer and.
So you're gonna take a break now from work.
Take a break from work.
Any idea of what you're gonna do?
Great question.
You're planning this 10K.
Yeah, I have a couple of races. 10K with our friend, and maybe even a half marathon again. I've run a few of them, but I've kind of gotten out of running. I'm running very, very like short amounts currently, but hopefully they'll build up. I mean, now that stuff is opening up, I want to start going places, seeing friends in Europe. I have a couple of ideas for like events, putting on events here in Kyiv.
Oh yeah.
I have, and then like a bunch of other work for other friends who have like their own companies. I'm going to try to help them out. So there's stuff on the agenda. I don't really plan on looking for a full-time thing until the fall.
Are you thinking of doing more events at your house?
Some, definitely trying it out. It's kind of limited because it's not very big. So there's a very limited audience we can potentially invite, but definitely my apartment, as you know, is pretty good for small intimate events because it's just like a lot of light. It's an interesting location. So definitely gonna try a couple more and see how it goes.
How do you promote yourself as a musician?
As a musician?
Yeah.
I've never really promoted myself as a musician. I feel like I've only really started playing with people like since with you guys. So like
Me too.
really, yeah, I guess that's true. But you have your own solo thing. Like I've
Sure.
as a bass player, it's like not like I don't have like a solo bass record. Yeah,
That
which
could
would
be
be
cool,
eh,
especially if you make it with cumbia.
So I don't really promote myself as a musician. This thing I know how to do best out of all this musical related stuff is DJ. That's something I've been doing for 15 plus years. Like, and with that, it just depends on the spot and the vibe they want. I can be like, the more freedom I have, the better, obviously. I like that. I used to run, when I used to have my own nights, I used to have a couple of nights in Boston, like many years ago, and it was super fun. One was, this one was called Pan Am, and it was just like music from like the Americas, but like kind of like Miami downward. Just like that part.
Nothing from Canada.
Nothing from like, we would play
Justin
like
Bieber.
Brazil, like funky carioca from Brazil. We play like dance hall. We play like any kind of like.
Have you by chance heard soca music?
Yeah,
from,
of course I know soca.
That's what
Trinidad, man.
That's what I grew up
I'm
listening
sure
to,
you
man.
did.
Soca
Trinidad is
everywhere.
soca capital. I don't love soca because it's just so happy. It's such a happy genre that it like doesn't really speak to me. Now that you mentioned it, I have a guy that this musician that I think you might like, who's like a weird like electronic soca dude who I think you would like, called Mr. 100. That I think you would actually really, yeah, it's too happy for me, to be perfectly honest. Like I love dancehall because dancehall has this like intensity to it, and it's also very weird with sonic palette of like the sounds they use for like production. I think is really interesting. Soca's just too damn like.
I feel you. Yeah, I've never heard it described that way, but it's very accurate.
Happy.
It's super happy.
It's too happy. I'd never really got into soca for that reason.
What else is out there? Like in terms of very specific genres in the Americas.
Yeah, I'm like a little less on the. Since I haven't been DJing much, I'm not like finger on the pulse of like what electronic stuff, and I'm not a big house or techno person, which is hard in Kyiv because like that's
I got pretty big into it here.
Yeah, the city's very 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 house and techno heavy.
Maybe you'll get into it too.
I don't know, man. If I haven't gotten into it by now, I feel like I've heard so much of it. I don't know, techno stuff. Like I listen to it for a little bit, and I get real bored real quickly. Little micro genres. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, with the internet, you can kind of like you can go into deep rabbit holes of like all sorts of little stuff.
Seems to be a lot of stuff in Brazil. A lot of diversity.
Brazil is its own universe of music. Brazil is a country where you like, or at least in most places, you rarely hear music that's not from Brazil. But since they have like 15, 20 different genres to pull from, that are all their own.
Have you spent much time there?
I have.
Whereabouts?
I'm lived in Rio for 2 months, learning Portuguese. So my whole goal was to learn Portuguese. That was a couple of years ago.
I'm actually trying to go back.
Eu posso falar bastante.
Bastante.
Com sotaque carioca.
Eu
Bem
posso
carioca.
falar com acento.
Acento de onde?
De Rio de Janeiro.
Eu também, carioca. Eu falo bem carioca, tá bem específico.
So you learned it well, man.
Yeah, the Russian helped a lot actually with the sounds and the accents.
There's something
similar,
there.
man. They're very related in a weird way. I love Brazil is like going to another planet. It's like maybe the only place I've ever lived that felt like you're like somewhere else. It doesn't feel like Latin America. It feels like its own thing. It's kind of amazing. They have their own culture, their own everything, music. The vibe people have there is so amazing and specific, very specific.
You spent 2 months in Rio. Did you feel safe there?
No. That's definitely not.
I've heard that's a thing there.
It is a thing there. It's a really big issue. It's one of the reasons why I don't think I could live there like long term. It's pretty challenging. It's a place where really like you outside in the daytime, you still want to like not take your phone out too much. Like, or like if you take it out really quickly, look at it and put it right back in your pocket. It's like, it's pretty dangerous as a place. And at night, you just have to be like in a car all the time. Like, you shouldn't be just like wandering around at night randomly. Man, it's unfortunate because it's such a magical place.
I know this dude from Canada. He was wandering around at night. Woke up the next morning like with his head smashed and no pants.
Can happen.
Of course, his wallet, whatever.
Yeah, cell phone. Brazil is like one of the most amazing places in the world, but it has like a definite dark side, like a really that's a real thing. So
What's that from? Like, what's the cause of that? Is it cultural? Is it
it's just a
poor?
lot of different stuff. I mean, like
government?
lots of guns, like just cultural. I mean, it's been like that pretty much for decades.
But David, guns don't kill people. People.
Well, guns help. It's
very
complicated.
true.
Honestly, I'm not an expert on like why, but it's really been like that really for ever. But at the same time, it's still a place I would like recommend anybody who's like at least a little bit adventurous go and check out. It's really one of the most amazing places I've ever been.
Yeah, I don't want to go like deeper into like giving the bad rap.
Yeah, no, I
to
think
Brazil,
it's
but
incredible.
I like looked at a list of the top 50 like highest murder rates in the world by cities. About half of them are there. A lot of them in Honduras.
Yeah, the Central America is going to be
Central
the other place.
Four of them were in the U.S. St. Louis, Detroit,
Really?
maybe Chicago, and another one. But
Yep, the
interestingly,
Americas.
none of them are in Europe
No, I mean it's all the Americas.
or even Asia. Yeah, it's all the Americas. What
It's
is
all
it
the
about those Americas?
The Americas, the
Wild ass
gun
people
culture
there
and
trying to kill each other.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The thing is, a lot of those capitals in Central America, they don't have like a lot. They don't have that much to offer. Like if you go there and like you're like, they're really dangerous,
Yeah.
and there's not like that much to see. But like Rio's like one of the most amazing places, and the danger is manageable. It's, honestly, just like got to be smart about it. Like don't go out like wearing like fancy jewelry or whatever, and like
Sure.
don't make yourself a target. But you do have to be a little bit careful there. So just the way it is.
Yeah, I think if you're just aware of your
Yeah, like where are your surroundings?
And there's probably better districts, worse districts.
Yeah, just like anywhere, but like you kind of everywhere. You have to be kind of at least a little bit careful.
What do you think of that funk?
Funky,
do Brazil.
funky carioca. I love it. It was really big when I was. It was starting to get really big when I was DJing, like 2005.
How would you
like,
describe
2000.
funky for the newbie?
I don't know.
Put you on
It's
the
like
spot.
Miami bass music. It's like really kind of old school, with Portuguese over it, and like, yeah, huge sound systems. I was lucky to go to a couple of parties, like in favelas, like some real, real parties. I've never seen such a big wall of speakers in my life. Like a bass note would hit, and everybody's clothes would like flutter like this because like of the bass. It was just like. It's crazy.
You feel like it busted up your eardrums.
It's all bass notes, so it's not like I feel like the trebles are really like, and there's not that much treble in it. It's crazy though. And Brazilians have this thing. People who've never been there may not know this. They're the best dancers I've ever seen anywhere in the world. They're like the most
Like
incredible.
in their genetics.
It's also so much of their genres of music are like dance type music, where like couples dance and stuff. But with funky carioca specifically, they dance like, I don't know, describe, like in sync with each other, like kind of like in a music video where everyone knows the steps and everyone does them together. This is insanely popular there. Like very, very often you will see like rows of like a dozen dudes just like all like doing this, and you're just like, I didn't know this happened in real life. Like, it's kind of amazing actually. If you can see it on YouTube if you like. Look it up. There's like tons of videos of Brazilians dancing to funky carioca, and it's usually like all together. It's kind of interesting.
Cool.
Interesting dance culture.
I love that movie. I know it's so stereotypical.
City of God.
City of God. But
It's a good movie.
Yeah, I've seen it like 10 or 15
Wow,
times.
I really love it. I have a good one to recommend you then. That's like a kind of a more updated one called Tropa de Elite.
Okay, what's it about?
Kind of a similar thing, but like kind of more modern, right? City of God is like in the 70s, right? Like it's like kind of a while ago. Tropa de Elite is also very good, and it's also about like the favelas, but it's like 10 years ago.
Cool
so
soundtrack.
Like, yeah. You'd probably like it.
Okay. We're getting more towards the time, closer to the end. I want to ask you what your favorite thing about your life is.
Right now?
Right now, yeah.
Right now, it's that I like kind of think I found like a home for a while.
Yeah.
And which is for me somebody who's like very like, oh, it's like what's over there? Like I moved to a place and I'm like, oh, maybe this other place is kind of good. Is a big deal. And it makes me happy that like at least for now, like I feel like some stability in at least that part of my life. and having stability in that part, I feel like it lets me do more like unstable things with the rest of my life. So, so I'm really looking forward to an interesting summer of creativity, music, travel. And yeah, summer here, as you know, is incredible. Like Kyiv summers are like amazing. This will be my third one here, so I'm very excited for it.
Okay, I'm excited to do more music with you, man.
Absolutely.
So thanks for coming on the show, David.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
See you around.
I'll see you around.
Thanks for joining us.